Hey, what's going on, guys? So here's a long overdue update on the tank. It's Sunday, March 18th, 2018. It's been well over a month since I've updated the tank. So I'll kind of walk you through up here with the 180 and then the 25 gallon and then talk about what's going on downstairs. Not a lot of change in this tank. Generally, the fish are doing great. The corals are doing mostly well. Some stuff is growing really well. Other things are kind of just plodding along. I guess that's sort of the nature of an SPS tank. I'm not super particular about testing aside from alkalinity. I'm not really dosing any trace elements. And I'm sure the SPS would benefit from a lot of that stuff. Most of the LPS are doing great. Growing. You'll notice a couple of the heads on the green torch look like they've died off there in the bottom left. And I believe the Aptasia eating filefish got himself a taste for LPS corals, which is why he's been relocated to the 25-gallon softy tank. All same fish, no changes in the fish, just fat and healthy. That Melanaris wrasse is getting huge. Tangs are happy and healthy, no signs of ick. After the powder blue was looking pretty bad a couple months ago. I had the blue fairy wrasse that's in there. And here's a quick shot of the lights. 4 ATI Blue Pluses, 3 Kessel A360 WEs, and some actinic LEDs. As I was saying, that fairy wrasse brought in some ick, but everyone's doing well. This green Monty has basically grown into this blue bird's nest here. And so I'm going to have to frag those guys off. That's about 8 inches wide there. Pink bird's nest to the right here is growing really well. These SPS up on top. This guy started as a 1-inch frag, is now a small colony. Real beautiful purple. It's a little hard to see. The tank looks a little darker in the video than it does to my eyes here. But most of the SPS are doing really well. And there's that bird's nest that's the size of a small basketball. Miyagi tort's growing. I've had to frag that a bunch of times. Green frog skin is growing. It had some die off and now it's growing again. I never am quite sure what causes some of that stuff. And I'll just kind of take a step back here, show you what this tank looks like from the kitchen side of the peninsula. So I'm sort of standing in my kitchen here. You can see the bottom of the tank is wide open. There's a dog bed there that they rarely use, but it's there. When we bought the house, I've mentioned this before, the vision was always to have a peninsula tank right here, and just been really happy with it. I don't do a lot with this tank. I stir the sand bed, I clean the glass, and that's about it. Just generally enjoy it. It's low-key. Now this guy has been the bane of my existence lately. Cyanobacteria. The pump that's in there's a Jabo PP4, and I think the impeller is spinning backwards because it's not producing any flow, and I'm not sure how you go about fixing that. And the eShop's Eclipse overflow, I cannot get quiet. It's either too wide open or too closed, and I've changed the flow coming from the return. Unless I have a trickle coming in there, it's just impossible to silence. So any suggestions there? I do have a gate valve on it, but here's the basement tank. So this is what's going on down here. Back in February 1st actually, my wife came home. I was in bed and I heard her shouting from the kitchen that she could hear water running in the basement. And lo and behold, the top corner of the tank here had popped open. The Euro bracing had popped open. And there was hundreds of gallons of salt water on the floor that we then had to push into the sump pump overflow. And my initial response was, screw it, I'm done. This tank I'm not going to trust it. It's 420 gallons of water. We want to finish the basement. Here's a quick shot of the frag tank. You can sort of see the fish area back there. And then after I thought about it for a while, I thought, you know what, let's at least give it a shot. Let's see if I can try and get this thing working. And so I resealed the seam while it was popped open. I put a bunch of silicone in there. And then I built this 2x4 frame around the top, sort of acting like you would see like the plastic brace on a traditional tank. And that was a month and a half ago, and so far, so good. I guess time will tell. You know, I know a lot of the advice I've gotten is that it's not going to hold, and it's probably a ticking time bomb, honestly. But I think that with the stability of the 2x4s there, the top seam is not going to be the issue. The tank was used when I got it, so I don't know specifically. I re-leveled the stand while it was empty. It had drained down to about, I don't know, a foot of water. So I re-leveled the stand because I think that might have been a little bit of an issue. The stand had sort of come out of level when the tank was filling, which would be my fault. And I upgraded my protein skimmer, so that was needed to happen since I added 400 more gallons of water. This is a Precision Marine Bullet XL1, being driven by a Panworld PS50 or PSX50, which is smaller than the recommended pump for this thing, but I've had to dial it back because it was pumping so much. The sump was already drilled for the one hole on the bottom. I had just capped it off. So I just had to drill the one hole for the return from the skimmer, and so far, so good, as you can see here, as you watch me struggle with one hand to get this lid off. It's been running since Friday and is already producing skimmate. I probably actually need to turn it down a bit because it's producing a bit too much skimmate. It's running a little wet, so just trying to get it tuned in for now, but so far so good on this thing. And because the Panworld pump is so small, it's not drawing a ton more energy than the other protein skimmer was. And there's sort of where the water... I just had to drill this one hole, which took, 5 minutes to get that set up. I'm still running the old protein skimmer for now until I can get it sold, just sort of for redundancy. Nothing else has changed down here. Frag tank. Got a little bit of an algae issue going on in here. I think just a lot of detritus builds up in here. I vacuum it out, but it's a little bit of a pain getting under the egg crate. And I'll just turn on the light here so you can see some of the stuff that's growing in here. It's mostly just frags of things from upstairs. The Monties, I had broke off a huge piece of the red Monty from the middle of the upstairs tank. So here you can see with one of the lights on, a big piece of green Passillipora, just a lot of, real easy SPS stuff. Pink, green, blue bird's nest, some pieces of the Slimer, that I had fragged off that has grown like crazy down here. This tank really likes these LED stuff. It really looks good under it, just a little bit, and there's that piece of Monty cap that's now taking over down here. But the frag tank is doing fine. Almost no maintenance, just siphon out some of the detritus. It's a spot where a lot of the detritus seems to accumulate. So I'll show you the top view of the 420 here. I'll turn off the gyre and give you a top-down view, which still remains my favorite view. I just haven't invested any money in fish or coral for this tank because it's been a little bit of a wait and see with, what's going to happen as far as the supports holding up. I mean, it's so far so good, and time will tell. But everything generally is doing really well. The major changes are the blowout and the protein skimmer. So, the fish in here are fine. Big Naso Tang, Desjardins Sailfin Tang, Yellow Mimic Tang, and Majestic Fox Face. So that's it. Feel free to hit me with questions in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys soon.